The knock came in the middle of the night, sharp like a blade slicing through the stillness of my large, lonely house on the outskirts of Denver. I, Eleanor, 62, jolted awake, my heart pounding. The clock on my nightstand read 2 a.m. Who could possibly be here at this hour? My husband, Richard, had passed away 3 years ago from a sudden heart attack, leaving me alone in this grand old house. Once it had been filled with laughter and life. Now only memories lingered in the silence. I threw on my robe and made my way downstairs, the hallway light casting a dim glow on the family photos lining the wall. Me, Richard, and our adopted son Nathan, whom I loved as if he were my own flesh and blood. The knocking came again, louder, more urgent. I opened the door, and standing before me was a woman I didn't recognize. She looked to be in her early 50s, with graying brown hair and eyes sharp yet troubled. She wore a worn-out coat and clutched a frayed handbag like it held her last bit of strength. "Are you Eleanor Ellison?" she asked, her voice hoarse, like she'd been crying. "I am," I replied, cautious. "Who are you? It's the middle of the night." She took a deep breath, her gaze locked on mine. "My name is Vivian. I need to talk to you about Nathan. I'm his biological mother." My heart stopped. The world tilted, and I had to grip the doorframe to stay upright. "What did you just say?" I whispered, my voice cracking. "Nathan, my son, a brilliant engineer, now the president of Ellison & Sons, the construction firm founded by my parents and later built up by Richard and me. He was adopted, yes, but Richard always told me we took him in from an orphanage in Chicago when he was just a baby. His birth mother? No, that couldn't be." "Come in," I said, though every nerve in my body was trembling. We sat in the living room, the soft yellow light falling across Vivian's weary face. Her words came in broken pieces, like a puzzle I didn't want to solve. She told me that 32 years ago she and Richard had a brief affair while he was on a business trip in Seattle. She became pregnant with Nathan, but Richard, already married to me, refused to take responsibility. He gave her a large sum of money to disappear. Poor, alone, and desperate, Vivian agreed to let him raise Nathan under the condition that she would never contact him again. The orphanage story. A lie, crafted by Richard to hide the truth from me. Every word out of Vivian's mouth landed like a hammer against my chest. Richard, the man I loved and trusted for 40 years, had betrayed me. Nathan wasn't the orphan we had saved. He was the living, breathing proof of my husband's infidelity. I wanted to scream, to deny everything, but deep down, I knew she was telling the truth. Nathan's eyes, those deep blue eyes that never matched mine or Richard's, suddenly mirrored hers. "Why now?" I asked, my voice cold, masking the storm inside. "After all these years, what do you want?" Vivian lowered her head, fingers tightening around her worn bag. "I don't want anything for myself, but Nathan, he deserves to know the truth. I have cancer, Mrs. Ellison. I don't have much time left. I just want to see my son, once, before it's too late." I said nothing. My mind spun. Part of me wanted to throw her out, to shield Nathan from this cruel truth, to protect myself from the shame of it all. But I was a mother too, and I recognized that pain in her eyes. I felt it, even though it tore me apart. "I'll think about it," I finally said, rising to my feet. "You should go now." Vivian nodded and quietly slipped a business card into my hand. Then she left, disappearing into the cold night. I stood there alone, the living room colder than ever. My eyes drifted to the photo above the fireplace, Nathan beaming on his MIT graduation day, Richard and I standing proudly beside him.
It all felt like a lie now. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake, torn between keeping the secret and telling Nathan the truth. In the end, I chose honesty. He deserved it, even if it shattered everything we knew. The next morning, I called him. Nathan arrived promptly, still in his tailored suit, hair neatly combed, carrying the confident smile of a man leading Ellison & Sons to new heights. "Mom, what's going on? You said it was urgent," he asked, settling onto the couch. "I just signed a deal with a major investor in New York." I took a deep breath, my hands trembling as I handed him Vivian's card. "Nathan, there's something you need to know about where you came from." I cracked as I told him everything. Vivian, Richard's secret, the lie we had both lived with. His face drained of color. The smile vanished, shock twisted into anger. "Dad lied to you? And I'm someone else's son?" he muttered abruptly. He walked the room like a caged animal, lost in disbelief. "I need time," he said, his voice firm. "I'm going to meet her. I want to hear it from her." He walked out without another word, without looking back. And I sat there, feeling like I had just opened a door that could never be closed again.
In the days that followed, Nathan changed. He grew distant, rarely calling, barely looking at me when we crossed paths at the company. I heard from Tom, our CFO and a longtime friend, that Nathan had been meeting with Vivian in secret. Then, one afternoon, he summoned me to the president's office, the very chair I had sat in before handing it over to him. Vivian was already there, standing beside him. Her expression was steady, not hostile, but firm. Nathan's tone was cold when he spoke. "Mom," he began, "I've talked with my birth mother. She's endured a lot because of Dad. I want her to have a place in this family, in our home. You're retired now. You don't need that big house anymore." His words cut like a blade. I stared at him, the boy I had raised since he was just days old, the one I taught to ride a bike, the one I stayed up late helping study for exams. And now he was asking for my home, my parents' legacy, to give to the woman who had shattered my family? I wanted to scream, but I stood tall instead, holding on to what pride I had left. "Nathan," I said, voice steady, "if that's what you've decided, I won't stand in your way. But don't forget, that house isn't just bricks and wood. It holds the sweat and tears of your grandparents, and of mine." I left the office with my heart breaking, but my head held high. Deep inside, I knew this was only the beginning of a much greater storm, and I would need every ounce of strength to face it. I walked out of Ellison & Sons into the gray Denver sky, feeling like the world beneath my feet was crumbling. The house Nathan wanted to give Vivian wasn't just where I lived. It was the heart of our family, the place where my parents laid the foundation for the company, where Richard and I threw birthday parties for Nathan, where I held him close when he cried after losing a school soccer game. Now, that house would belong to the woman who had destroyed my happiness. And my son, the boy I had loved for over 30 years, was holding the knife. I drove home in silence, tears rolling down my face, but I wiped them away before stepping inside. I couldn't afford to fall apart. I was Eleanor. I had survived too much, losing my husband, steering the company through a recession, raising Nathan alone after Richard's death. This would be one more trial, and I would survive it, even if it broke my heart. I sat in the living room staring at the family photos on the wall, wondering, Did Nathan still see me as his mother, or was I just a placeholder? Someone to fill the gap until Vivian came back. Days later, Nathan moved swiftly. He sent me an email asking that I vacate the house within a month, citing that Vivian needs a stable place for treatment. And he also began restructuring Ellison and Sons, appointing loyalists to key positions and gradually dismantling my influence.
Tom called, his voice tight with concern. Eleanor, Nathan is isolating you. He's ordered a review of all your past decisions, like he sees you as a threat. I don't know what's going on anymore. I understood then. Nathan didn't just want the house, he wanted to erase me from Ellison and Sons, as if I had never been part of it. His betrayal cut deeper than anything Richard had ever done. I had given Nathan everything: love, education, the opportunity to lead an empire, and now he had turned away, choosing the birth mother he had known for mere weeks. But I didn't retaliate. I didn't call a lawyer or confront him. I knew doing so would only push him further away, and despite the pain, I still loved him as my son. Instead, I quietly packed my things. I wrapped up the memories, the photo albums, Nathan's childhood medals, Richard's wedding ring, and moved into a small apartment in downtown Denver. On the day I left the house, I stood at the front door one last time, gazing at the yard where Nathan once played, and whispered, "Goodbye." Vivian moved in the very next day. The neighbors told me she took the master bedroom and hung new curtains, as if trying to erase any trace of me. At Ellison and Sons, Nathan made it official. He removed me from the board of directors, citing a conflict of interest. He didn't speak to me himself. He had his assistant deliver the letter. My hands trembled as I read it, but I didn't cry. I had cried enough. Instead, I wrote personal letters to the longtime shareholders, those who had trusted my parents, those who had helped me build Ellison and Sons through every hardship. I didn't blame Nathan. I simply said I had stepped away and thanked them for their support over the years. I didn't ask for help, but I knew they would understand. The consequences came faster than I expected. A week later, Tom called again, his voice frantic. "Eleanor, the major shareholders are pulling back. They say they don't trust Nathan to lead without you. Some major contracts have been canceled, and the stock is slipping. Nathan's panicking." I didn't feel joy, just sadness for Nathan, for the company, for everything we once were. Then, one evening, there was a knock at my apartment door. It was Vivian. I was stunned, but composed. I invited her in. She sat down slowly, her eyes red and swollen. She said, "Mrs. Ellison," she said, her voice raspy, "I never wanted things to turn out like this. I just wanted to see Nathan, not take him from you, but I was selfish. I let him hurt you. I'm sorry. I'll leave the house. It was never mine to begin with. And I am asking you, please help him. He's falling apart, and I know only you can save him."
Her words took me by surprise. I looked at Vivian, the woman I had once seen as a threat, and saw someone just like me, a mother, broken in her own way. "What have you done to him?" I asked, not with anger, but with weary sadness. She told me she had tried to stop him, that Nathan had become obsessed with making things right for her, that he believed I no longer needed him now that I was retired. I nodded slowly, my chest heavy. "I'll think about helping him," I said quietly, "but Nathan needs to face me himself." Vivian left, and I sat there, alone again, typing an email to Nathan. "Son, if you want to talk, I'm here. Apartment 304, Clarkson Street. I'm not angry with you, but you need to take a long, hard look at what you've done." I hit send, my heart pounding, not knowing if he would ever come. Nathan was my son, even if not by blood. And I couldn't turn my back on him, even after everything he'd done. The days that followed felt like standing on a cliff's edge, holding my breath. My small apartment in Denver, with its plain white walls and a narrow window overlooking Clarkson Street, became my sanctuary. I, Eleanor, once the queen of Ellison and Sons, was now just a 62-year-old woman living among unpacked boxes, trying to find meaning in the ruins of her family. Every ring of the doorbell made my heart leap, but it was always a delivery or a neighbor stopping by. Meanwhile, Ellison and Sons was unraveling. I followed the headlines in industry journals. Without Eleanor Ellison, Ellison and Sons faces crisis of confidence. Tom, the CFO, texted me updates. He said Nathan was working around the clock, scrambling to salvage canceled contracts. But the harder he tried, the deeper he sank. He won't listen to anyone, Eleanor, he wrote. He needs you. I held the phone, tempted to call, but my pride stopped me. No, he needed to come to me. He needed to face what he'd done. Then one night, as rain lashed against the windows, the doorbell rang.
I opened the door. Nathan stood there. His suit was soaked through, hair plastered to his forehead. His deep blue eyes, Vivian's eyes, were tired, ashamed. "Mom," he said, voice hoarse, barely above a whisper. "Can I come in?" I nodded and stepped aside, heart pounding. He walked in slowly, standing awkwardly in my small living room, like a stranger, unsure of his place. "Sit," I said softly, motioning to the couch. He sat, but didn't look at me. His eyes fixed on the floor. The silence stretched between us, broken only by the sound of rain. Finally, he spoke. "Mom, I was wrong. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I had to make things right with Vivian, to make up for what Dad did to her. But I hurt you, the one who's always been there for me. I'm so sorry." His apology blew through the ache inside me like a soft wind, but it couldn't erase the damage. "Nathan," I said, my voice calm but firm, "you didn't just hurt me. You turned your back on everything I and your grandparents built. You threw me out of our home, out of Ellison and Sons, for a woman you barely knew. Do you have any idea how deeply that cut?" He looked up then, his eyes red and brimming. "I do, Mom. I see it now. I was a fool. I saw it all fall apart. Shareholders leaving, clients walking away. I thought I could lead, but I'm nothing without you." He paused, swallowing hard. "I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I don't know what to do anymore." I looked at Nathan, the boy I once cradled in my arms, the child I taught to read, taught to love, now a broken man before me. I wanted to wrap him in my arms and tell him everything would be okay, but he needed to understand. "Nathan, I love you, even if we don't share blood. But love doesn't mean turning a blind eye. You chose to push me away, and you need to take responsibility. If you want to make things right, words aren't enough. You need to act."
He nodded, tears rolling down his cheeks. "I will, Mom. I want you back at Ellison and Sons. I need your guidance. And I want Vivian out of the house. I was wrong to think she could take your place. She told me I needed to apologize. She said you're the one who's truly my mother." His words caught me off guard. Vivian, the woman I once saw as an enemy, had chosen to stand with me. I took a deep breath, feeling a flicker of hope spark within. "Nathan, I'll consider coming back, but first, you need to have an honest conversation with Vivian, set things straight, and you need to earn my trust again.
step by step. He stood, walked toward me, then hesitated before wrapping his arms around me. I let him. I felt the warmth I had missed, but my heart was still cautious. "I'll try, Mom, I promise." He left, and I stood there, in my small apartment, torn between pain and hope. Nathan had come back, but the road ahead wouldn't be easy. The next morning, I received a call from Vivian. Her voice was weak but steady. "Mrs. Ellison, I've moved out of the house. It was never mine, and I don't want Nathan confused. I also wanted to apologize for the pain I caused. I only wanted to meet my son, but I went about it the wrong way. You're his mother, not me." I was silent for a moment, stunned by her words. "Vivian," I finally replied, "you don't need to apologize. We're both mothers, in our own way, but Nathan needs us both. Not to fight over him, but to support him." She cried quietly on the other end of the line, and I felt something strange. Not friendship, but a kind of understanding. A connection between two women who had both sacrificed everything for the same son. I began preparing to return to Ellison and Sons, not for revenge, but to save the legacy of my family and guide Nathan. I reached out to former shareholders, letting them know I'd be mentoring him, not reclaiming control. They agreed to support us. But I knew this journey wasn't just about a company, it was about rebuilding a family, one that included Nathan, Vivian, and me, in a new kind of relationship, no longer built on resentment, but on truth, healing, and love. In the days following my meeting with Nathan, I, Eleanor, began putting my life back in order from my modest Denver apartment. Each morning, sunlight streamed through the window, casting a warm glow on the walls, but inside, I still felt heavy. Nathan had apologized, and Vivian had left the family home, but the wound his betrayal left was still raw. I loved him deeply, but trust, once fractured, doesn't return with words alone. It takes time, it takes effort, and it takes truth, spoken and lived.
Ellison and Sons, my parents' legacy, stood at a tipping point. I had to choose: step back in to save it, or let Nathan face the consequences alone. I began by meeting with former shareholders at a quiet cafe downtown. They were the same trusted allies who had stood with me through past crises. Now their faces held both respect and concern. "Eleanor," said Helen, the largest shareholder, "we believe in you, but Nathan, he's lost our confidence. He's smart but inexperienced. If you return, we'll support you, but you must make sure he doesn't repeat his mistakes." I nodded, promising I'd guide him, but in my heart, I wasn't sure yet if he was truly ready to change. Meanwhile, Nathan began showing up every evening at my apartment, binder in hand, reports from Ellison and Sons, seeking advice. "Mom," he said one night, voice tired but determined, "I'm trying to reconnect with major clients, but they want you in the meetings. They say you're the soul of the company." I saw sincerity in his eyes and desperation. He was trying, but without me, he was drifting through a storm, alone. I agreed to attend a high-stakes meeting with our New York investors, but on one condition: that Nathan had to publicly apologize to the Ellison and Sons team for his past misjudgments. He hesitated, shame flickering across his face. Then slowly, he nodded. "I'll do it, Mom. I don't want to lose the company, and I don't want to lose you." His words warmed something in me, but I held back. I needed more than promises. I needed proof. The investor meeting took place at the Ellison and Sons headquarters. Walking into that boardroom felt like returning home. The chair at the head of the table now belonged to Nathan, but everything else, every wall, every photo, bore the fingerprint of my life's work. Nathan stood, facing the team and the investors. His voice trembled,
but it was steady. "I made mistakes," he began. "I let personal emotions cloud my judgment, and I hurt the most important person in this company, my mother, Eleanor Ellison. I'm sorry. I ask for your forgiveness and hers, and I ask for her guidance so we can bring Ellison and Sons back to where it belongs." The room fell silent. Then came the applause, not thunderous, not triumphant, but warm, sincere. They weren't clapping for Nathan's leadership. They were clapping for his honesty. I looked at him, my throat tight. My heart ached with all that had passed, but also softened by what could still be rebuilt. "Thank you, Nathan," I said quietly. "Let's begin again." After the meeting, the investors agreed to continue their partnership on one condition, that I return as strategic advisor. I accepted, not for power, but to protect the legacy of my family and to help Nathan grow into the leader he needed to become. But I also gave him one condition of my own.
"You need to meet with Vivian," I told him. "You need to understand who she is in your life, but don't let that truth destroy what we've built." Nathan arranged a meeting for the three of us at my apartment. Vivian arrived looking frailer than before. Her illness had begun to leave marks on her face, lines of exhaustion, eyes dimmed by time. She sat across from Nathan and me, her hands trembling as she held a cup of tea. "Mrs. Ellison," she began, voice thin, "I never wanted to come between you and Nathan. I only wanted him to know the truth before I'm gone. But I was wrong to let him push you out. I'm sorry." She turned to Nathan, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Nathan, Mrs. Ellison is your mother. She raised you. She made you the man you are. I'm only a piece of the past. Don't lose your future over me." Nathan lowered his head, his voice tight. "Ms. Vivian, I'm sorry. I let things go too far. I want you to be a part of my life, but Mom is the one who gave me everything." He turned to me, eyes red. "Mom, I don't deserve it, but I want us to be a family, all three of us." His words struck me silent. I looked at Vivian, then back at Nathan, and for the first time in weeks, the weight in my chest began to lift. "Nathan, Vivian," I said, my voice soft but steady, "we don't have to be enemies. We can be a family, but it has to be built on truth and respect." Vivian nodded and reached for my hand. For the first time, I didn't see her as a destroyer. I saw her for who she was, a woman who had suffered long before I ever knew her name. From that day on, I worked alongside Nathan at Ellison and Sons, not to control, but to guide. He began to listen, not just to me, but to the team. Slowly, the canceled contracts came back, confidence returned, the company's stock began to stabilize. Vivian, though visibly weaker, visited from time to time. She brought homemade pastries and told Nathan stories from her youth. I didn't feel jealousy. I didn't feel pain. I had come to understand a mother's love doesn't have to possess. It's big enough to be shared. Spring arrived in Denver with warm sunlight and cherry blossoms blooming along Clarkston Street. I, Eleanor, had grown accustomed to the rhythm of life in my small apartment, a quiet space where I found peace after the storm of betrayal. Ellison and Sons, under my guidance and Nathan's renewed determination, slowly regained its former glory. Major contracts returned, shareholders regained confidence, and Nathan, once a lost boy, was becoming the leader I had always hoped he'd be.
But more than the company, our journey, mine, Nathan's, and Vivian's, was one of forgiveness and reunion. Not to erase the past, but to build a new future. Nathan visited me often, not just to talk business, but to reconnect. One evening, he brought an old photo album filled with childhood pictures I had lovingly preserved. "Mom," he said, sitting beside me on the sofa, "I've been looking through these.
You were there. Every game, every graduation. I forgot that when Vivian came into the picture. I'm sorry I hurt you." I took his hand, felt the sincerity in his voice, and replied, "Nathan, I forgave you long ago. But you need to forgive yourself, too. We all made mistakes, but we're making it right." Vivian became a quiet presence in our lives, though her health continued to decline. She lived in a small apartment near the hospital, refusing Nathan's offer to return to the family home. "That house belongs to Mrs. Ellison," she told him during a visit. "All I need is you." I began inviting Vivian for regular dinners, not out of duty, but because I saw her now for what she was, a mother, with love no less deep than mine. Those dinners, awkward at first, grew warm over time. We shared stories about Nathan. I told the tale of the time he shattered a window playing baseball. Vivian shared her dream of becoming a painter before she got pregnant. Nathan would sit between us, laughing, and I saw in his eyes the peace that comes from belonging to both of us. Ellison and Sons hit a major milestone that summer, winning the contract to build a sustainable urban community in Boulder. At the company announcement, Nathan stood before the entire team and said, "Eleanor Ellison isn't just my mother, she's the heart of this company. She taught me that leadership isn't about power, it's about responsibility." Then, in front of everyone, he hugged me. And in that moment, I knew every ounce of pain we had endured had been worth it. One day, Vivian called me to the hospital. She lay in bed, frail but bright-eyed. "Mrs. Ellison," she whispered, grasping my hand, "thank you for sharing Nathan with me. I know I didn't deserve it, but you gave me the chance to be a mother, even if just for a little while. I can go in peace, knowing he has you." I held her hand tighter, my tears falling silently. "Vivian, Nathan is both of ours. You gave him life, I gave him love. We were never enemies." She smiled, and a few days later she passed away, leaving Nathan and me in sorrow, but also in peace. After Vivian's funeral, Nathan grew quieter, but also stronger. He established the Vivian Memorial Scholarship Fund at Ellison and Sons, supporting single mothers who wanted to pursue careers in construction. He told me, "I want her to be remembered, but I also want you to know how much I appreciate you." I nodded, proud beyond words. And for the first time, I felt that our family, imperfect, unexpected, yet held together by love, was finally whole. I returned to the family home in the fall, not to reclaim it, but because Nathan insisted. "Mom, this is your house," he said, handing me the keys. "I want us to start over, together." I agreed, but with one request, that he keep a room for Vivian, a quiet corner filled with her paintings, so she could remain with us in spirit. Nathan nodded without hesitation. We repainted the house together, room by room, like a symbol of renewal. Today, Ellison and Sons is one of the leading construction firms, not just in profits, but in purpose. Nathan leads with the humility I had always hoped he would find. And though I still serve as an advisor, I spend more time in the backyard garden, planting chrysanthemums, Vivian's favorite flower. Every Sunday, Nathan comes for dinner. He brings stories about the company and dreams for the future, expanding the scholarship fund, building schools for underprivileged children. One evening, he handed me a letter written in a trembling hand. "Mom," he said, "I wrote this a long time ago, but I only just found the courage to give it to you. Thank you for never giving up on me, even when I didn't deserve it. You are, and always will be, my mother." I read the letter, tears falling freely, then wrapped him in my arms, my heart full. "Nathan," I whispered, "you've always been my son. Our story isn't about triumph or revenge. It's about forgiveness, for each other, for ourselves, and for the past we once tried to bury." Nathan, Vivian, and I, though our time together wasn't long, chose peace over bitterness. My home, Ellison and Sons, and my heart are now places of love, with no space left for resentment. We are a family, not by blood, but by healed scars, and by the love we chose to give.